course, with that well-known welcome team, the Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team, the Red Arrows. Here it comes now, running in, grad centre, the Navy Wings Heart.
Whoa!
You hear that lovely roar? That comes from a Pratt & Whitney R1340 Wasp radial engine, 600 horsepower, pretty big beast indeed. And it's the tips that are actually going almost supersonic of the propeller that is making that beautiful sound. Primarily a trainer. Over 17,000 of these were built either as Harvards, the name for the British and Commonwealth Air Forces, with also a deck hook for US Navy, or T6 Texans for the US Army.
Coming in with a high-speed pass.
Nice roomy cockpits, good visibility out of there, and of course a great trainer as well. For moving Sea Fury, of course we haven't seen for some while, and the inevitable chipmunk that most people still own these days for tail wheel training. And you'll be putting this through a number of graceful maneuvers, some you've already seen. Typical wing over manoeuvre.
He kept touching my face.
Always using, of course, that descent to add a little more dynamic energy to the power of the engine. Putting in a neat twist in what we call a quarter clover.
They're doing it the same way they did last year, I guess. Oh, fucking hell, he nearly choked.
Coming out of a half Cuban there, just putting on the twist. Oh, and that wonderful, that burst of power there, put all the levers forward, and that little prop just spinning ahead of itself there, but just naturally coming back now, easing into another wing over on the right hand side.
He nearly lost that.
The aircraft's heritage dates way back to the 1930s. This particular aircraft was built by the Canadian Car and Foundry in 1954. And that, guys, was initially operated by USAF instructors training German pilots before handing them over to the German Air Force.
Sound like he choked it.
Operated there pretty much through to the mid-60s before then being described as surplus requirements, went off to Portugal, flew with Portuguese Air Force up until 1975, including operations in Mozambique.
Not your boyfriend, sorry.
Fitted with counterinsurgency armaments there. It had a mix of guns, rockets, napalm and bombs. Following the granting of independence in Mozambique, basically was just left behind to start rotting, but was recovered by a couple of South Africans. They actually found 13 harbours there, and eventually through making their way through the UK, some of them refurbished Fury pilots.
Last pass. That's the JP out there, look.
And there is last pass, Andy Davis. I get you to do a bit more waving during the course of the afternoon. They all love to see your involvement with them as well. So any form of appreciation they get if they're not able to talk to you. Service in September 1970 with 3 FTS at RAF Leaning and coded 38. There on the air squadron. while studying economics at Manchester. Good match, because the aircraft you see here today was used initially at 3 FTS as part of the Gemini pair during the 1973 season, but was then the year later transferred to 1 FTS at National News. That's where I trained myself also a few years ago, and used for basic training there, before being transferred yet again to 6 FTS at Fittingly, where it was used for navigation and low-level air defence training tasks. Aircraft up to around about 420 knots.
He's got a certain flying.
And good for aerobatics, able to pull +5 to -3.
Very similar to the Hawk lady.
And in this genre, the whole range was side-by-side seating. High altitude endurance of about 3 hours, but the fuel burn at low altitude cut that way back to about 1.5 hours. Full climb with a roll to depart the show this afternoon.
You know what I did? I took the chairs out of my car. I had camping. They're in my house. But I don't want to carry camping chairs.
In hand stay, coming in now, you might want to just bend your necks, because surprise for surprise, it's behind you. Quite extraordinary and massively outstanding aircraft out of the sheer charisma as we feel this afternoon endeared its crews proud to fly this very famous thoroughbred.
Is there anyone in the dorsal turret?
In hands today, Flight Lieutenant Seb Davey, himself an early side lad, studied systems engineering at the University of Southampton and completed his initial officer training back in 1999. Very experienced pilot, initially as a captain on the C-130J, in Iraq and Afghanistan, but then as a tactical air transport captain, so supporting numerous humanitarian efforts around the globe. During his course of his deployment to Afghanistan, he was involved in one of the heaviest ever operational airdrops from C-130s. And then became an instructor on the tactical air transport course, again on the C-130J. Many events as they So here departing now, please give them a massive wave, a flying memorial to the men of Bomber Command. the Lancaster.
The haze is so annoying.
G-forces that the pilots are at the same time trying to move their bodies, so this is something you can't do easily. You've got to train for it, you've got to be very fit and agile. As they dive down, the wind's about 150 miles an hour in their faces. As they pull up, there we go, into a crossover, a wonderful smoke display and picking them out beautifully in the sky above us. Absolute delight and a pleasure. Very strong aircraft these, again basically a mid-war 30s, 40s based at Harvard earlier on. That's the tips going almost supersonic. They've got an extra ailerons as well to improve their manoeuvrability because they are quite heavy, and of course there's an awful lot of drag having somebody on the wing up top as well. Sight and sound that is, yes, and keep your eyes on the girls all the time. While the boys are doing that, yes, they're doing their little manoeuvres, going upside down, doing various pirouettes on the rigs, on the wings, and later in the show. And there, it basically took off as a bit of a show. He was joined by the equally extraordinary name Lady Ethel Dare, who was the very first female wing walker who, like Locklear, would jump from plane to plane. So you'll be glad to know we do it all a hell of a lot more safely these days. Of course, the whole routines and training system is much more different, and I'm glad.
That's positive.
And a little later on, as I mentioned, the girls will then take up a different formation themselves as well. Going through a series of opposition passes. You see the girls there, arms and legs out in front of the plane, and that is a lot of effort. The girls themselves come out of circus and dance environment. They've already been pretty trained as athletes in those genres, and therefore have the right background to do this sort of work. It's a very competitive group. Let's find out. And it's a roll, and look at that in perfect synchronization. The girls hanging upside down in those rigs. And the guys just now putting on a bit more positive G, a little more comfortable, and their bodies will sink back into both the wing and the cockpit. Touring right through the United States, but also into the likes of skiing and scuba diving. They're a really entertaining pair, as are the pilots. Smoke coming on, let's see what's happening next. And there they are in their wind rider position. You see on the top of the wing, leaning forward into a very strong wind. It looks sedate, it looks fairly slow in many respects, particularly when you're going into the wind, of course, but it's not the case for those girls. The boys in open cockpits, of course, they're able to hand signals, but they showing the impressive cockpit lady there.
What? Not allowed to take off like that.
Walkers. And I can assure you, don't worry, perfectly controlled. I'm just doing a bit of wing waggling to say their wave farewell to you, and you do the same back to them. They'll be performing a very, very graceful set of manoeuvres, linked manoeuvres, essentially rolls, loops, and what we call quarter clovers, saw turns, all in a very, very disgraceful, sorry, I should say, delightful manner. It's quite the reverse. One of the most successful speed range. We're going to see a formation team later on at later variants, the RV8. They'll have 5 of those. That's in about 30 minutes time. But as well as a good speed range, literally between 50 and 200 miles an hour, they're also pretty good at short takeoff and landing as well. Now, as Dolly, who's the number 2, rotates around the smoke, Nigel Reed, who's leading, and once again, all the aspects of formation come in, very clear directions from the leader, all the cadence set to initiate and to complete, and the smoke. So as you pull up into a loop, the pilot ducks his head right back to see the horizon behind him, and then that ensures that he keeps the wings level, in this case, to rejoin formation.
I don't even know if I'm getting it or not.
Extremely professionally conducted. As well as those stunning LED light strips along the side of the fuselage. They're not fitted with inverted wheel systems though, so they must be positive G during the course.
Honestly, right, this guy literally just hit everything, he just gets it, just like it works, and then stops, and then just let me know. I think he's quite good.
You can see the wind gradually moving across to the left, and that is why they're just putting in a slightly extended manoeuvre now to move the centre of the display back to where we need it. As they pitch up, it's a very good way, and then put in a boot full of rudder on the cue from Nigel, so they both turn to their left in sequence. So this time they're putting back up as if they're going into a loop, and they're going to put a little twist at the top.
Really liked it, pal.
This is what we refer to as the quarter clover. So the G coming on now. Something you get used to if you train enough, something you've got in advanced aerobatics, which we'll be seeing in the second half, something you really need to do a couple of times a week to ensure that your G tolerance remains at the highest possible level. You come out of the top of the loop, you just check the aircraft, roll it, and then
Aren't you special? I know,
This time putting in the twist the other way and going out towards the sea.
Look.
Discord.
Time to give your best wishes to your partner, friends, and it looks like we've lost a bit of smoke on one of the aircraft. Here it comes now. Very difficult to pick out the harvest. Used really, but of course we're used to semaphores and flags and all things like that, but many years ago, of course, they would use the bugles to call aircraft into action as well, and here's a little taste of what it was like as we welcome Black One,
One red.
Royal Naval Air Station, Yeovil. Yeah, that was the old call to flying stations for the Royal Navy. All done rather differently today, of course, but nonetheless, these guys right at the cutting edge, out in the front line. The Black Cats, as they are known, and there's a bit of a story behind that as well. They've been on the airshow circuit since way back 2001, when they were known as the Lynx Pair. So following that 360-degree wing over, and the 360-degree turn now demonstrating its power and agility.
The army ones are better though.
You'll see a variety of climbs, turns, and of course hover work as well. Led today by Lieutenant Tom Pettick. He joined the Royal Navy in 2010 as direct entry pilot, so on completion of flying training was streamed to the Wildcat helicopter. He's deployed on numerous occasions to the Middle East. Essential roles, of course, for this aircraft being maritime counter-terrorism and interdiction, and spent 2 years on a short notice roster involved with maritime terrorism incidents. From Thales and Sea Venom, a guided and anti-shipping missile produced by MBDA.
Yeah, what was the first weapon set? I forgot the name.
It's helicopters that you're doing.
Laser guided missiles.
Yeah, what's it called?
Lovely spiral climb, and look at that nose over, absolutely directly at the sea. Entire windscreen full of sea.
Which means they're better.
So the Apaches are better than
Flying the aircraft today, however, is Gaz McCall. He served in the Navy for over 25 years and no stranger to the display circuit either, one of the most experienced pilots on the force. He qualified initially on the Lynx, Gazelle.
Is that a Lego shop?
Yes.
Well,
Around the back of town there was.
I love Legos. Do you want to buy me some Lego, girl?
Yeah.
for
Really?
about this one. You bet.
No.
Oh. Only something small.
What Legos do you want to buy me?
Star Wars.
I know.
But they play like colonial music.
Oh, Britannia.
Someone's spanking the weed.
Well, that was just my body odor.
Why did you sniff him? My next door neighbour smokes weed and it sticks to my mouth.
Because while they make it look easy on a lovely summer's day here, don't forget these beautiful Mark 9 silver Spitfire, absolutely unique, finished in polished aluminium, but with the guns removed, and thus in a demilitarized version, just simply highlighting the timeless beauty of this fantastic design. Part of the demilitarization was also to do with the incredible tour that Matt and his co-partner Stephen Brooks undertook around the world. Literally, this aircraft flew around the world. Achieving the distinctive elliptical wing to its absolute limits with the thinnest cross-section possible, but of course enough room for the all-important undercarriage and the machine guns. Sadly didn't see the great success that the aircraft achieved, dying before the outbreak of the Second World War. But his chief designer Joe Smith then taking it on through 22 different the famous Castle factory in 1943. It flew 51 combat missions. Having been put into service in October 4, and 16 operational sources from RAF Detling near Maidstone in Kent. And that included cover escorts for B-24s and B-17s and 26 bombers, attacking B-1 launch sites, as well as fighter sweeps over France.
I missed the tail chase they did as soon as they got killed. Just doing like a
Wonderful chap himself. First took to the skies with the Royal Air Force CCF section at Exeter School, where he flew chipmunks. Then went off to Newcastle to study civil engineering before taking a few months working with an investment bank in London. And having done that, he then set his sights on a career in aviation.
Every time they got a confirmed kill.
Delightful sequence of formation aerobatics. High up on your right hand side now, looking to the sky. Please welcome Team Ring. Coming in for their very first manoeuvre, the Big Vic Loop. Go through the aircraft and the manoeuvres during the course of it, but leading the formation once again, Sid Shirley. Ably aided, of course, Pete Wells. And there, the Big Vic underside pass. Now, at the end of this, 4 and 5 are going to break out as that smoke comes off. Royal Air Force fast jet pilots, around 6,000 hours, flown multiple tours on the F3. But now keep your eyes peeled on 4 and 5, Gerald and Russ, as they put through this aircraft in a number of slightly more dynamic aerobatic and here back into crowd centre is Sid leading the 3-ship in battle. They're rolling out on what we call the 45, that's sort of half left. Many years as a professional rugby player and in many businesses, but with a deep passion for aviation. Alongside him, Russ Eatwell in the Raven 5 position. He's got well over 15,000 hours on 70 different types of aircraft. He joined the Navy's Fleet Air Arm straight from school, flew helicopters initially before being selected to fly fast jets. Pulling up now. 4 and 5, brake, go. And there's Russ and Gerald braking out as Sid leads them over the top. Another brake coming up now. Absolutely lovely.
This is like what the blades took over from, isn't it?
And you see notes and hear that cadence on that very last syllable that is when all the other pilots, so they're doing their best in formation to replicate absolutely at the same time the movement of the first aircraft wave. We've got of course Barry and Pete Wells. Pete, well known on the air display circuit, massed well over 6,000 hours on all sorts of particularly tail dragger aircraft, went solo on his 16th birthday. Director of Zulu Glass Tech, composite repair business he has, but also well known for his early development of nighttime pyrotechnic shows using the silence twister. 4 and 5 coming back in on a double loop tail chase. And there you go, marvellous sequences. Very, very nicely coordinated. They'll get themselves sorted out as soon as they're in the right position. We'll wait for Sid to call the twist. And I think you'll agree, what a lovely sequence that is. Well, over 20,000 Spitfires were built in 22 different variants. And the aircraft remained in production for 12 years. From your right-hand side, please welcome the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight Fighters.
Is it just that? Just this time? One clip
Pairs passes before then splitting into individual displays of each part. Success the Hurricane had, of course, taking a tally of counts of 2/3 of the hits during the course of that Battle of Britain period. Spitfire really took a commanding role throughout the rest of the war. Andy Priest just moves off out of the pilot's training flight at Aston Down. Served briefly with No. 2 Civilian Anti-Aircraft Corporation Unit at Langham in Norfolk. And then in 1954 was officially grounded and transferred to the non-effective stock. Didn't become part of the initial establishment of the Royal Air Force Historic Flight, but the Mark 19 did. This aircraft, though, languished as the Gate Guardian at RAF Tangmere before being loaned to Spitfire Productions Limited, who modified it and then used during the filming of ground sequences for the epic film The Battle of Britain.
No, I did shave on
Thursday. That's cute. I shaved yesterday.
Charles Croft joined the Air Force in 2002 after fast jet training was selected for that. Then became part of the RAF exhibition flight, displaying at many static exhibits around the country, regularly being dismantled and reassembled, but taken. Taking its place there was Crofty, moves off stage out to the far right hand side. Andy Priest here now bringing in the daily ascents to 30,000 feet to gather meteorological information.
There is something far out on the horizon.
Flown to to Biggin Hill from Duxford in July 1957 by the World War fighter ace Group Captain Jamie Rankin, the 2014 performing at over 200 public air displays.
I don't want a wet willy. Ah.
Always busy volunteering with the BBMF whilst teaching new military pilots to fly the drop shooter. He joined the BBMF back in 20. Featured during that life, but it's well worth remembering as we get the chance in this the 80th anniversary
Where
year.
is she?
The average expectancy of life for a Spitfire pilot was just 4 weeks. And that is a wrap, and he just caused oh yeah, we're just joking here. He gets a bit of stick for being a tiny pilot, but here he is coming in low and slow at 1,000 feet above us. It's certainly about, there we go, lighting up those afterburners, creating the full 40,000 pounds of thrust from the two Eurojet EJ200 engines. Breaks off to 35,000 feet and Mach 1.5 in just 2.5 minutes. An absolutely stunning performance. Of course, this is the machine, hugely capable, and of course able to talk to multiple other platforms as well through data links and transfers. Bring it through all its paces, and luckily that low cloud just breaking away enabled him to really put it through its full performance there. Able to withstand plus 9 to minus 3G, he will literally pinned back into his seat as he comes through some of these extraordinary maneuvers. Massive array of weaponry underneath. As he comes round, you look at the underside of the aircraft, you'll see all the assembly of NATO hardpoints on there, able to carry ASRAMs, AMRAMs, the Mauser 27mm cannon as well. Most pilots have on board, not just his own physical conditioning, but of course the suits that they wear in the Typhoons to help keep the blood where it should be when you're pulling 9G. Literally maneuvering in what they call a very carefree handling style, and
the past 2 years.
Grew up on the Tornado fleet, predominantly having been based at Marham with the Gold Stars 31 Squadron. Moving on to the Typhoon and 29 Squadron. He's spent many busy frontline tours as well, so he's seeing deployments to the Falklands, Estonia, Romania and the Middle East, and returned to flying instructional duties in 2022. All the pilots that display, of course, have regular daytime duties as well. Level high speed, lower level pass here. We limit him sadly to 600 miles an hour. And that's simply to stop your ears and your wind. The burners kicking in again, accelerating again. various multifunctional head-down displays, a head-up display, and also a helmet-mounted display. So an awful lot of data management going on in the cockpit. And I believe we cleared him on departure to around 6,000 feet, so the typical departure to be expected, standing on its nose full power up into the sky. That activity goes on 365 days a year, 24/7. And that is a wrap.
Leona. Just what you love.
Oh my god, those are some sharp
And here she comes, ladies and gentlemen, Melanie Astles.
Those are some
Joining
sharp,
rugby
sharp
back in
turns.
82, moved to south of France. What a lovely place to be. And then he went to school
thing you got that one wrong.
in Monaco. Well, I think she was at college by then, but not really sure what to do next. She decided to go along with her lifelong dream, which was to be a pilot. And here she now is, right at the top of her game. One of the most accomplished aerobatic champions we've seen for some years. I understand under the tutelage and friendship of Mark Jeffries, a man we know well on the British display and aerobatic competitive market as well. Took a first line lesson at the age of 21 and then very quickly got stuck into aerobatics. Won her first French aerobatic championship title back in 2007 in the multiple rolls, split rolling on her way down, stopping, edging, hesitation, rolls, really packing it in. And of course she'd be used to performing inside what we would refer to as an aerobatic box. In this case we have a designated display area. That is where they convert their aerobatic training into public display flying. Pulling up hard, that'll be pulling on, it's around 7 Gs. Split rolling it on the way up. So let the speed where we get a bit of rotational, just letting it hang on the propeller there, and then letting it drop, slide on its side. Weight of the aircraft, putting it down, but that weight of the aircraft useful. That is all about converting that height speed into more energy. Roll. Massive roll rate on these particular aircraft.
No, it's because I don't actually know what it
We
is,
have
but
spidey senses.
some reason
But
it goes.
the good thing about Riviera is they've got the runway,
Very
anyone else
much an
sit while they're on
inspiring
way, so
example
watch
of
it take
perseverance
off
and
so
determination. And she displays that in her current work as well for Elevate Her, putting women in the front line of aviation, in the spotlight, doing what she can. And sit back and see this extraordinary display.
It's missing. It's okay.
screen. Reading that speed up. Lunch box are very much Czechoslovakian cocktail referred to as a headache.
You should. What I'm saying is you should.
If I give you the money.
Have you ever read your rules of practice? No vaping, no smoking, no energy drinks.
I've got 3 out the door in my bag.
It's like they go.
You're actually supposed to come out.
Oh no, I'll just type mine in now.
I pulled mine out. Oh, you guys also have.
Can't polish shoes.
You drank today.
Most of the smoke oil being used is of a very friendly environmental nature. Baby oil, something like Ondina.
That's done.
That's a stolen noodles.
Great to see that being used extensively. Trademark entry, as always, at 9:30. Please welcome the Jet Pit and Richard Goodwin.
There's something you'll notice about this.
Oh, is this the one you said that's the jet test? Oh, shit, this is crazy.
We've met him. You wouldn't expect the bloke who's behind that to be the one.
Most unusual in an aircraft of this class. He still, however, uses all the same techniques that all other aerobatic pilots, using height, speed and energy, enable there a upward trajectory and upward aerobatics as well. So the main power plant is the Lycoming 540. Well, plenty of gas for that, but of course the leverage and the functioning of the fuel systems, and there you hear the jets kicking in just to push it out that little bit further there as he twists. Therefore a simultaneous failure of all 3 systems is considered very unlikely. They are linked accordingly and in a safe manner. And you can see the beefy nature of this particular machine. Built from scratch over a period of 4 years, based on the S2S fuselage from the Pitts design, but incorporating his own differences. The major difference being the wing design with a unique massive aileron and more wing area, giving it a phenomenal roll rate and also much better handling at low speed. The original Pitts landing gear has all been removed, the engine mount modified to take new titanium sprung gear legs, new carbon cowling reducing the weight and profile. Again demonstrating using the jets just to take you up to there, using the gyroscopic effect from the propeller whilst holding it in the hole. Much modified rudder design also. Once again, hovering like a harrier, holding it in the sky. Jets igniting there. keeping it stable, proving his vertical with that top of smoke. Wonderful example of his climbing. Going towards the end of his sequence now, just using that pass to take a quick sneaky look down the beach there. Even though he was sideways onto the sea, he can just cock his head back and take a quick look out at the top of the canopy. Now, I think probably his last example of a flying in a bike pack. How bizarre is that? Totally committed, passionate aviator. Hours and hours. Really pushing it, just showing how effective the addition of those two little Lynx turbine engines are. And that is Richard Goodwin complete.
Down the London Mall towards Buckingham Palace. However, this time we call it amateur big battle. When the red, white, blue come down, please put your hands together for the 2025 Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team, the Red Arrows. The red one immediately says pulling up, and he pulls up at 400 miles per hour, 4 to 5G, and that means he is going for the full show. Once he gives that command, you can see all the teams starting to collapse into our world famous Diamond 9. Reaching a height of over approximately 6,000 feet, the aircraft slows to approximately 120 to 150 miles per hour before Red 1 brings them down and twists them around to the right in that Diamond 9. Red 1, of course, in his second year as team leader, Red 1 scored a John Bond, known as Bondy. This is Bondy's 7th year in the Red Arrows. He took Once again, he pulls up at over 400 miles per hour in swan formation. He gives the command, and you'll see Reds 8 and 9 slip inside and change the shape to shuttle, showing the expertise of the pilots. Not only can they loop in formation, but they can also change shape, reaching a height once again of over 6,000 feet. Before Red 1 starts to bring them back down towards the display line, the aircraft now starts to increase in speed, 200, 300, back to that 400 miles per hour, before bringing them back round to the left. Those commands given by Red 1 are almost robotic. course, you saw the Typhoon display earlier, magnificently by Scruttley and Shoya. All the pilots on the red arrows must have at least 1,000 to 1,500 hours. Big Vixen presents. In that particular formation, all the aircraft are flying with their air brakes out. Quite hard to see from this distance, but it's a small door at the base of the aircraft towards the rear. And this has twofold effect. Firstly, it makes the formation a lot noisier, but secondly, it makes the 8 and 9 roll go as Reds 8 and 9 roll around the rest of the formation, but watch for the colour change as Red 1 flies the Tornado down the line. 'Of course, our famous red, white and blue coming out the front section of the aircraft. That red, white and blue is only capable due to the smoke pod on the belly of the aeroplane. That smoke pod is capable of producing approximately 5 minutes of white smoke, 1 minute of red smoke, and as we go into that second half, we're now working two distinct sections. Off to the left-hand side, you have Enid, Reds 1 through 5, named after. Hannah will now disappear, and Chris is in his second year on the team. He was taken from training once again and made into a qualified flank shot on the Tucano, after which he then joined the Tornado GR4 force. He flew with the famous 617 Dam Buster Squadron on operations over Afghanistan, where he received an Air Force Cross for his service. Red 5 is Flight Lieutenant Justin Wales. Justy's in his second year. Time, roll around synchro. Get your cameras ready for Hannah break. Red 6 and Red 8 off to our left hand side, Red 7 and 9 off to our right hand side. Hannah and the synchro pair are led by 100 miles per hour for the Hannah pass. Red 8 to 9 go up and down in the roller coasters.
Other way.
Red 9 is Flight Lieutenant Ollie Strickland, streaming red all the way up into the sky. Ollie is in his third year on the team. He was a former tour. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give the synchro pair a massive round of applause for continuing the show. It takes a lot of concentration, a lot of expertise having made such a massive mistake to then get back into the show and perform those aerobatic manoeuvres only 100 feet above the sea. Now pulling up to 5 to 6G, turn hard to each other, they change their smoke into red and blue. Watch for the colour changes again once they pass within only 30 metres at the rear. Red 7 now changing to blue, Red 6 now changing to red. The red smoke comes on and Red 1 takes Enid into a barrel roll, leaving a snake-like smoke trail in the sky in the first part of the manoeuvre we call the Serpent. is a clap, which means excellence. And even that heart, even though it wasn't excellent, it still tries for excellence every time you fly, right? So, anyway, we reds 8 and 7 from the right, reds 6 and 9 from the left. They roll inverted for our first manoeuvre of the show. Our new one, this is Chainsaw. With reds 6 and 9 now rolled inverted. For up to about 30 seconds there with outside the white smoke on. Reds 2 and 3 roll goes. Reds 2 and 3 roll to the outside. Clear goes. Reds 4 and 5 roll to the outside. And one of the hardest manoeuvres for our new pilots to master each year. This is rollback. As the synchro pair lean left and right, cameras ready. This will be the first time in public that the team have performed this manoeuvre. Get your cameras ready for the palm split. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as the synchro pair come in, because you have been watching the 2025 Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team. It is the Red Arrows!
Let's go.
The red one puts his smoke on.